Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Graham Unang Strufenacht. This is my daughter, Juniper. I'm the policy director at Rural Vermont, a nearly 40-year-old member-based organization working for food justice and food sovereignty. Through our membership in the National Family Farm Coalition, we're also a member organization of La Via Campesina, one of the largest social movement organizations in the world. Inherent to food sovereignty is an explicit focus on climate justice, human rights, democracy, the rights of peasants and indigenous peoples, territorial rights, internationalism, and solidarity. 2023 brought hardship directly to many farms and communities across Vermont and across the world. Flooding, fire, and other climate change-related disasters, farm closures, and crop and equipment loss and damage of housing and shelter, contamination of land and waters, food insecurity, economic and political marginalization related to dramatically increasing economic inequity and corporate consolidation, making land, healthcare, and many essential needs further out of reach of the working class.
Just a second, keep talking. I'm right here.
People work to recover here as they do globally.
Do you want to come up?
Someone wants to come up. Mutual aid networks. Sorry, let me find here where I am. Mutual aid networks among community members and local organizations grow into the spaces of need. Farms redesign and rebuild with aid from neighbors and farming organizations and agencies. Municipal governments and state governments do what they can with little public resource that remains after decades of neoliberal policy, which has impoverished the public sector and enriched private corporate interests. How do we bring the hundreds of thousands of acres into production that we need to regionally to be even marginally food resilient, according to New England Feeding New England, when most farmers can barely stay afloat, and when housing and land and agricultural training is out of reach to the vast majority of people? Oxfam reports, quote unquote, that far from being accidental, this power has been handed to monopolies by our governments. They report that the world's richest 1% own 43% of the global financial assets and emit as much carbon pollution as the poorest 2/3 of humanity. These lines of economic, climate, and political inequity fall disparately based on race, class, gender, legal status, and whether you live in the global north or the global south. And this undemocratic inequity of power has significantly influenced the terms for our policy debates and our cultural imagination related to climate change and a just future. The world's military, some of the tools of violence used to protect this power, are estimated to be responsible for more than 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions. In 2022, the US military reported a limited estimate of emissions higher than the annual emissions of 150 individual countries and territories. Yet the Paris Agreement gives governments discretion to report on emissions. And under the Kyoto Protocol, militaries were exempt from setting emission targets, such that the enteric emissions of my cattle on my farm are given greater weight than the US bombs being made and dropping on Gaza right now. The Guardian reports that emissions from the first 2 months of the most recent escalation of the long war against the people of Palestine were greater than the annual carbon footprint of the more than 20 of the world's most climate vulnerable nations. Other studies suggest the true carbon footprint could be 5 to 8 times higher, and this does not include the cost of rebuilding Gaza. It does not include accounting for the fact that much of the farmland, fisheries, healthcare, educational, cultural, energy, and water infrastructure has been destroyed or permanently polluted. Beyond any abstract or direct environmental impact of war, we must see in this US partner genocide that the fears we have for our own children, our own families, the places we inhabit as a result of climate change, environmental degradation, racism, patriarchy, economic inequity, they're being manufactured and perpetrated in unimaginable ways upon the children and people of occupied Palestine as a matter of US tax-funded policy. So we are here for each other as people, our neighbors and family locally and globally, building a better future together based on real needs and accurate assessments of accountability, while dismantling the systems of oppression and inequity, which are the greatest contributors to the injustices we face. Thank you all, and thanks to the other speakers here today.